domains was slow. Doma changing the game. One bridge, one standard, now the systems move the same. Registrar stay central, keep the trust and control. DNS and compliance, still they play the key role. Traded on chain, let new markets arise. Domain value unlocked. Welcome to Domain Fi.
Welcome to Doma OnAir. This is episode 4, The Road to Dominion. I'm Cap, joined by, we got a couple new guests today, actually. Joined by Fred, back with us again. Mark Trang, the CEO at D3. Wizard behind the scenes, excited to get him on camera today.
CMO.
CMO, excuse me, CMO. No offense, Fred. Fred.
No worries.
The other CMO.
We've seen co-CEOs out there before, right?
And then last but not least, Ish Millie joining us today, our special guest of the day.
Yeah, what's up, everyone? I'm glad to be here wearing my Domain Fi hat.
Hey.
Repping D3.
How do I got?
I need to get one of those. As always, we'll kind of
go OG over here, you know.
Oh, look at this.
There you go.
We gotta get Mark on a hat here today. Yeah, we'll go around the horn, do some brief intros, and then we will talk. We'll give some in the news in domains this week. Talk a little bit about Dominion coming up next week. Going to make sure you've got your tickets, or get your tickets for that if you haven't already. Especially those who are going to be out in Vegas for Bitcoin conference. Not going to want to miss it. Loaded lineup. We'll highlight some of those speakers here later today as well. But before we jump into things, Fred, we'll maybe start with you. I know most, if they tuned into one of the prior Doma OnAir episodes, they've probably caught your intro. But proper introduction, the CEO of D3, Fred. Do you mind sharing any background maybe you haven't shared yet with our listeners or the audience?
Yeah, I've been I remember our first call. I introduced myself as one of the OG apes, Ape 7001. Been into digital assets for a number of years now, but mostly been doing domaining for about 26 years, ever since I graduated from college, about 20 miles west of here in downtown LA. Did a number of companies, generated a lot of money for domainers, for registrars, for registries across the boat. Very excited to be here, running things with the D3 team and having guests like Ish on board.
Love it. And Mark, the CMO of D3, welcome to OnAir. You've been part of the brains responsible for pulling all this together. How, episode 4, how are you feeling so far with Doma OnAir? Anything that's exceeded your expectations? Anything maybe missed the mark so far? And any background you'd care to share with the audience?
No, we're excited. I think it started off as just a fun little experiment. Just getting content and media and showcasing, of course, a lot of our partners and our team. And I think we can be more entertaining. I think let's make domains sexy again. And that means the content that represents domains and D3 and Doma. Let's have some fun with it. And then a little bit about me. I've been with the company now, almost 3 years. Prior to this, I was in kind of classic Silicon Valley roles, worked for big tech companies like Google and Salesforce, and also a number of small venture-backed pre-revenue startups, mostly all in open source and developer tools. So a lot of interesting parallels: internet infrastructure, tools, utility, making everyday things useful and valuable. And we're excited. I think we'll talk a little bit more about it today, but we have so many great announcements coming up for our conference next week, and then bringing along a lot of the domain industry with us, with folks like Ish.
Yeah, speaking of Ish, no pressure. Mark says we gotta bring sexy back and make it fun today. So no pressure. But speaking of big sales, notable sales just recently. I saw on.org. Some I can't even pronounce. I'm gonna try to pronounce it. German for invoices sold for 44K. Swell.ai for 5 figures, and Homela.com for 25K. On.org was the big one at 145. But prior to that, Ish, I saw 420.com sold recently. I saw that from your feed. Were you involved in that transaction, or just were aware of it?
Yeah, I figured we announced it yesterday. Yesterday was 420. 420.com sold last year. It was a deal that I helped the buyers secure. sold for $500,000, which was a great deal for them. I feel like that's a 7-figure name easily, has a lot of cultural relevance in the marijuana space, which is kind of like at an inflection point on being legalized federally, possibly. So the site is live. It's 420.com. It's also, a rare domain because it's a 3-digit, which, historically have value. But that one, and I think maybe numbers like 888, the ones that end with 00 are even more special. But I can't think of a more culturally relevant 3-digit domain name than 420.com.
Ish, did you get Snoop involved in that deal or no?
No, it's a bunch of entrepreneurs that own a marijuana product line. So yeah, check them out, 420.com.
Well, congrats on that one. Ish,
Yeah,
if you're not familiar, if you just catching Ish for the first time, domain investor, founder of Domainer Expo, and one of the most respected voices in the domain community, also going to be speaking at Dominion. So definitely tune in, join us next week and get to hear more from Ish. But Ish, any other background? Do you mind sharing a little bit of your story? Like, how did you get into domains? What brought you to the space, and any other background you'd like to fill in for our audience?
Yeah, I'm a late comer, maybe a late bloomer. I discovered domains during the pandemic. I'll never forget the day I was doing a session on Clubhouse called "What is Digital Real Estate?" and my perception of what digital real estate and my agenda behind doing that room was completely different from what I discovered. This gentleman, Ryan Colby, came in and said, "I'm a domain broker." And I was like, "What the hell is that?" And he was like, "I sold Instagram their name." And, he started educating me, and in a very public setting, on just the economics of domain investing. And I was so blown away. Like, I heard for the first time that names like voice.com sold for $30 million. My mind just couldn't comprehend that. But at the same time, it made sense. So I just felt like I unlocked this, gold mine, and I've been super passionate about it, wanted to learn. Immediately just went on a fact-seeking mission. At a very high level, I was able to meet with the domain king. He was gracious enough to let me interview him at his home. I met Muncie Khan, helped me with just understanding what the foundation of the history of the business was. And I just really, really fell in love with domain investing. I thought it was a wealth hack. But at the same time, I realized that you needed some sort of like knowledge of the fundamentals, right? Otherwise, it could be accruing liabilities instead of assets. So, these guys had a lot of experience, were easily available during those times on Clubhouse. And, I have a marketing background. I organize events. I do influencer marketing. So I started advising several registries like .club on how to do some customer acquisition, leveraging the fact that they just had a lot of momentum during the Clubhouse days, right? The synergy was there. And, they retained me as an advisor. And then I started working with Donuts to help them promote .live. .club ended up getting acquired by GoDaddy for what was now reported at $48 million. And I started building a small domain portfolio, and now I have 3,000 of them.
Wow. That's impressive. So, I mean, you mentioned Monty, who we were fortunate to have on the show 2 weeks ago, and correct, certainly an OG in the space. And no offense, but after talking to some of these OGs and coming in from, the pandemic era, relatively new to the industry, and, to go from 0 to 3,000 domains, starting Domainer Expo. What was the motive behind that? What was the catalyst? What made you want to jump in with both feet and start, something like Domainer Expo?
Yeah, I felt like domains were, the domain investing community is still very small. And I felt like it was sort of like an echo chamber. The same people, they all know each other. I mean, Fred can attest to this. And to make this thing wider, you have to bring in fresh blood, for lack of better words. And I wanted to play a role in just creating more awareness for domain investing, so a new crop of domain investors like myself, and wanted to kind of like bridge in the experience of the veterans and the enthusiasm and, the cash flow of the newcomers, right? because someone like myself, I have a background in crypto, so I was able to see the similarities. Did very well with NFTs, and practically diversified a lot of those gains into domain names. I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but at least I didn't put it all in one bucket. And I just felt like domains had a huge upside. And I attended NamesCon, and I realized that it was an amazing event, but I felt like it was poorly attended, considering how vast domain investing is. And that was kind of like one of those consequences of that echo chamber as well. So I felt like, well, there's room for another event. Maybe we can create something with my event background that can bring other people that might not even know NamesCon exists, or create another resource where the industry meets more than once a year. And since then, other people have seen the same idea. There are domain conferences in Dubai. There's domain days in Dubai. There's some in Europe now, and I think it's Domain Summit. So yeah, it's become quite a crowded field in terms of bringing people together. But I feel like domains, are very exciting. I think we all share that mantra, and we're all just trying to create awareness, and bringing people together IRL is also one of the ways to do that.
I love it. I love it. So crypto background, jumped into by way of Clubhouse. Probably, I'm connecting some dots there. I'm guessing you were maybe talking about some digital land and Sandbox.
I did it all. I did it all. I bought the apes. I bought the land. I was gifted the land. We all swallowed the metaverse pill, right? And
I was going to ask, did you buy your Sandbox land too?
I didn't buy. I bought the other one. What was the other one called? Decentraland.
Decentraland.
Yeah, I had 3 plots on Decentraland. But the craziest thing was when Yuga did an airdrop for the other deeds. I was fortunate enough to get a land on the island because my ape was 221. Ooh. And I received an offer for $290,000. And I didn't accept it. And that's another story.
I got one in the inner island, one on the outer. But I remember I felt lucky,
Yeah, I had one. I got the offer for $290,000. I remember telling my friend, "Look at this! I can literally get $290,000 for this. I didn't pay nothing for it." But I ended up taking a loan out against it for 35 ETH, and at the time, Ethereum was about 4,200. And by the time the loan was due, it was smarter for me to let go of the collateral. And that led me to think, like, what if we could do the same thing with domain names? Like, these are NFTs essentially, right? And at the time, I was very, very, very involved with .eth names. I just thought that they were going to be great investments. Unfortunately, they didn't turn out to be. But it's a great technology, needless to say, right? And I saw that there were provisions for people to use the .eth names as collateral. So I always thought, why can't we do this with Web2 names? They have more lure, they have more history, they have more utility. And it's fast forward today, Doma is working on that and working very diligently on it. And I'm excited to be involved in any capacity, because it was something that I thought back in 2021, there would be a day where you'd be able to take a domain name on chain and use it as collateral or own part of it. And that's shaping up very fast.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think part of the thinking, you mentioned 2 out of 3. You mentioned virtual land, you mentioned domain names, but then think about traditional real estate, right? I think that these concepts have been around for decades or hundreds of years. The fact that you can borrow, lend against your real physical land, right? And sort of like why hasn't that, aside from monkey JPEGs and monkey related lands in the metaverse, why hasn't that traversed to the real world? What do you think, Ish?
I think why hasn't it translated into the real world in terms of physical real estate?
Yeah,
I think it's more because of regulatory hurdles, and I think it's also because people haven't been able to sort of digest how that will occur. And I think also,
I'm sorry, my bad. It's more about how come the fact that you can digitize and trade and borrow against real land but you
Correct.
can't do it for domain names yet.
Oh yeah,
Have you thought
good
about
question.
that angle?
Yeah, I just thought that it was simply a matter of the crypto rails being put in place, right? And I think you guys are doing that now. And I think a lot of it has to do with the perception of people um, in terms of like how they view domain names. I remember just telling people back in the day, domainers are not limited to boomers. What are you talking about? Like there was this mindset where, oh, well, we're going to go into this decentralized world and .eth is going to be the next .com. And what ended up happening was .com absorbed all of .eth superpowers, right? Which is good for both, right? And now I think the crypto rails are in place where people understand that, there's something called DNSSEC. Even on the agent side, there are protocols like X402. These things are already been in place in DNS technology that enable domain names to now be tokenized or be leveraged as collateral on chain. And I think there's an education hurdle. But I think once people see headlines or see other people making good use cases of this technology, then the floodgates will open. But I think right now people do not even know that this exists, right? Just like a lot of people like myself did not even know domain investing existed before the pandemic. So you talk about a subset of a subset, right? So it's quite a task. But the beautiful thing is domains are household assets. Everyone understands what they are, but they connecting the dots in terms of the value of domains or how they can leverage domains, like any other financial asset class. I think that's where there's an opportunity and a challenge.
Did you have like an aha moment or some light bulb moment to go from hearing about domains as an asset class on Clubhouse to owning thousands of domains yourself, to hosting Domainer Expo, to coming on the show here with us, to speaking at Dominion? Was there, what went from like, oh yeah, these are cool, I understand domains, to getting in the domain industry? Was there any one singular thing that just was that light bulb moment for you?
I was very lucky, to be honest with you. I think I came in to the domain industry with the carpets rolled out for me. I think it was God's timing. Like very few people came in the domain industry and became friends with a Muncie Count and went into business with them within their first year in the domain industry. I was very aggressive. Like I went out and I wanted to meet, so this guy Ryan was my mentor, and he's telling me about all these great guys. Oh, this guy is going to come on your show. And I had a stage on Clubhouse where, thousands of people were listening. And a lot of those people were not from the domain industry, but we were talking about domains. And I think my persona and Ryan's experience was a good balance. And so people sort of like were exposed and discovered domains for the first time. And I was also a true learner at that time. And then you had other people that were like from the domain industry who came on. Some of them were not the friendliest, but eventually they caught on and they lended themselves and their expertise to add more credibility to what we're doing. So we had, Colin Campbell, who started .club, join us. And then we had Frank Schilling join us. It was so easy to access guests. We didn't even have to go on a live stream like this. It was just pick up your phone and talk, and we all had nothing to do. The whole world was shut down, right? So people were bored out of their minds, and I think that was a good time. And then at the same time, on the enterprise level, there was an inflection point. They didn't know how to navigate that period. So I was able to lend some expertise as an advisor, and I think finding some success, people started seeing .club getting adopted. A lot of people are like, oh, they're buying the wrong domains. But that was not the point. The point is they're discovering domains, and this is the first phase. No one is going to come in here and start buying quality .coms. They're going to come out and buy those 99 cents pieces of trash that they perceive at value. Then they're going to get educated, right? And then eventually build a quality portfolio, right? So, that first phase was very critical. There were hundreds, if not thousands of people that discovered domain investing because of what we're doing. And I think at the same time, because you could see in real time how many people were in a Clubhouse room. Some of these rooms had 2,000 people at the time. So that appealed to the registrars, and they were like, oh yeah, we could use this platform to create awareness for our extension or extensions. So I started having meaningful conversations with like Donuts. We did a campaign for them for .live and sold a ton of .live premium names through that social listening experiment that we were going through at the time. And then there was a virtual edition of NamesCon, which was my first ever NamesCon experience. And I was like, okay, I can't wait to be here in person. And when I went in person, because it was still sort of like after the pandemic, it was lightly attended. So my perception was, oh, this could be bigger and better. Like, and, you know, this is kind of like, you know, an opportunity to put an event together. So I decided to do Domaina Expo because I felt like NamesCon at the time wasn't speaking to the Web3 side of it. So I wanted to create something more inclusive where you could listen to the Web3 angle, you could listen to the Web2 angle and make an informed decision, right? And that's what we did.
I tell you what, it's like perfect time to plug Dominion. You talk about, you mentioned your mentor and getting to connect with Monty Khan early on and going to these conferences and just kind of immerse. It sounds like you immerse yourself in the industry. If you're just finding domains today, stumbling across this show, join us in Vegas next week. Dominion. Ish will be speaking there. I'll highlight some of the other speakers here. You can head right now to luma.com/Dominion 2026 to get your tickets for Dominion. Still some pricing's $299. You get a discount using code CWC. But just not only is Ish going to be there speaking, you can see just the incredible lineup here from both OG domainers, domain icons and legends, as well as some Web3 influential voices from obviously the D3, the Doma team. You got Richard Lau, who's been on the show here with us before. Ish, as we mentioned, Monty Khan, as we mentioned, and then as well as you got Solana and Kalshi and just many of the both leading Web3 and Web2 voices all in one spot, and a lot of fun stuff happening. Not just it's not going to be your typical conference room style lectures or just full of keynotes and panels. While there will be some great panels, there will be some good keynotes. A lot more going on at Dominion. Pretty unique agenda, and even the location itself. I got excited. We got a glimpse of that today. Mark, anything you want to expand on specifically about Dominion, the lineup or the venue? Like I said, a lot of unique combination of both domain OGs as well as the Web3 industry. I assume that was intentional.
Yeah, that's right. I think, well, this is our third year doing it, right? And then our mission as a company is to bridge the existing domain industry, including investors like Ish, registries, registrars, and not only build the technical bridge, but also the relationship bridge to some of the biggest Web3 communities in the world. That's why you kind of see the lineup manifest itself at a conference. I think one of the other principles around Dominion is, I think Ish kind of hinted at it, like it needs new blood. Like existing industries need to kind of be transformed, and there's no better way to do it through events, right? So the events can't look and smell like the existing events, right? I told the team this year, more trading, less trade show, right? So a lot of the activations and agenda this year is really about demystifying crypto and what it means to trade domains. For an audience, at least on the Web2 side, are probably either skeptical, maybe have some misconceptions, but you spend a day and a half with us next week. I promise, like, we'll make it easy. We'll make it, in some cases, risk-free. We'll subsidize your wallets. We'll help you kind of trade, make your first few trades free, and handhold you and ask all the hard questions. We've got an entire team of experts, including a lot of folks from our engineering team who built a lot of the tech, who's going to be on site. And of course, having a great time, right? So instead of sitting in a boring beige conference room, we're we're taking over actually one of the Western country bars inside Resorts World.
Oh yeah.
Not because they have great drinks and a great band. We're going to definitely enjoy that, but because they have a great audio and visual sound system, right? So transforming that into part trading floor, part theater, part entertainment, and then hopefully a lot of education and fun. So a lot of like the philosophy of us coming together at least once a year at Dominion is showcasing this bridge, right? And I'm so excited that we're able to get folks like Ish, folks from Solana, and some of the top Web3 communities together in the same room, right? Because then I think people will realize that they're a lot closer than they realize, right? In terms of their thinking, their goals, their aspirations. And of course, yeah, you're showing the list here. We've got the buy side and the sell side brokers involved in the AI.com deal. We're going to come out and probably give the first and only ever talk, really diving deep into that deal. A lot of folks like Ish, when you first discovered domains, right, didn't realize the dollar values associated with some of these assets. And so when this deal went down earlier this year, we thought, man, what better way to educate a lot of the Web3 community about how valuable domains are than bringing kind of this record-setting team and record-setting deal on stage.
I love it. Ish, you've been to a lot of domain conferences. After seeing this lineup and hearing Mark describe a little bit about what's going to be happening on the ground there, what jumps out to you? What gets you most excited about Dominion next week?
I think this is beautiful. I think just the fact that we're talking about what I think is the future of domain investing, while highlighting the highest of highs of domain investing with AI.com. It makes it a great way to showcase domains, right, in a less boring format, right? It's very exciting news. I think it was all over every major publication that I follow when AI.com, the sale was announced for 70 million. But, just to discover what happened behind the scenes is something I'm personally excited about. But at the same time, as someone who's been involved in crypto since the ICO days, and a true degen, by my admission, right? I've been involved with meme coins and, speculated on NFTs and, Web3 domain names. And I've seen all those trajectories, the highs, the lows. What I haven't seen is what's going to happen when you use the blockchain technology with a serious asset class like domain names, right? And I'm excited about that potential. So when Mark said trading floor, even for me, there's a learning curve, right? I think people need to be brought on and get comfortable with that learning curve. And I think that's what's going to create that mass adoption. And so, I know you guys are super smart and you'll capture a lot of the content, and just the ability to distribute that after the conference will unlock a lot of opportunity for domain tokenization. I was super skeptical about domain tokenization when I first heard of it. But now I'm a big fan of it because I thought it was going to be one of those things where, I attended a D3 conference and I was talking to some of the more experienced domainers, and they're, oh yeah, the Web3 guys are going to come in and buy all our stuff. And I was like, you think you're going to dump it on these people? Like, these are highly intelligent, high-risk investors, yes, but they do their due diligence, and they've been scammed a lot, right? They've bought all type of crappy meme coins and got the rug pulled on them. They're very resilient, but I think that they will cherish the opportunity to be able to utilize the Web3 technology with assets that have real value backing them. And that's what I'm excited about the most. Like, it's no longer, oh yeah, it's about Pepe, and Pepe was this frog, and that we saw those go to billions of dollars. Like, why can't that happen with an AI.com or X.com? Like, those have way more substance, I'm sorry, than Pepe the frog, in my opinion, humbly.
It's like, rewind back to like your early domainer Clubhouse days, like during COVID. Like, if that Ish was coming to Dominion next week, like,
Right.
what would that ish want to see?
Good point. Good question. I would want to know more, right? If I would want to know, how do I get involved in this type of industry, and what sort of leverage can I have as someone who's, comfortable with the blockchain? So I think that's the catalyst, right? There are two types of people: people that are already embedded in the blockchain, either from an investment side or from a end user side. And then you have people that are like, oh, it's just a fad. It's not real. Bitcoin is a scam. Those are two realities of where we are today. And as we move towards the point where certain things will be obvious and certain things will be demystified, right? I think that's where there's opportunity, right? The blockchain is forever. It's not going anywhere. Whether you think it's bad or good is irrelevant. Those you can argue about capitalism, but capitalism isn't going anywhere, right? So my point is, it's not about the morality of the blockchain, it's about the utility of the blockchain. And seeing where that crosses paths with domains, to me, that represents opportunity, right? The people that are already embracing this early, like Monty, these are the people that had the same vision that shaped up the domain industry. People like Fred, right? The same people see opportunity. And as someone that wasn't there in the days where you could send a request for a name, I've always wanted to look for where I could find leverage. My leverage is being I'm a good marketer. My leverage is I know how to network. My leverage is I can put an event together, right? So I've always used the things that I had as leverage to sort of like become a more profitable domain investor, right? Now, everyone has that collective leverage, whether you want to tokenize a name or you want to have, a piece of the pie in a name that you might not be able to own, by yourself, right? So to me, it's exciting from both sides, right? From an investor side and from an end user side. Like, why put your money into speculative meme coins that rug you 99.9% of the time when you can learn about something that has been established for 3 decades and has a much higher upside? I think once people understand what's happening here, it'll become a no-brainer.
I don't say no-brainer, but I talk to even, our investors sometimes, and they're like, oh, domain names, you create them once, they never go away. Yeah. That concept I know is so simple, but you'd be surprised how many people don't get it, right, in Web 2 and Web 3. So it has to be about education. It has to be about case studies. It has to be like people you trust in a setting that you trust, and just kind of locking it into that memory. And, I think I mentioned this in a prior discussion with you guys, right? There's a book by a guy named Jeffrey Moore, which is called Crossing the Chasm. It speaks about 3 stages. Number 1, early innovation, then early adopters, then that kind of early majority, and then the late majority, the people who've ostensibly missed the bus. And you go back to what you said, ish 5 minutes ago. This is just like 2001, man. Like, I've seen this cycle. I mean, yeah, we call this a small circle. We used to have jokes, with all due respect. We were like, this is interesting. This constituent, it was kind of like a cross section of middle America that somehow just kind of got lucky, and they all kind of were able to cram into like the size of like a ballroom. You know what I mean? And if I look back at the industry now, like 20 years later, it's not much has really changed. I mean, you'd be surprised. One thing I give credit on the Web3 side, not to go on a soapbox over here, is that because we've seen these bull and bust cycles, since 2017, 2018, at least 4 or 5 times, the Web3 space definitely experiments and innovates a lot, right? The key to success oftentimes is, to my opinion, you gotta fail, you gotta try again. You gotta fail, you gotta try again. You know what I mean? And I know that the domain industry is not that forgiving, but that's okay. You know what I mean? As long as you're honest about what you're doing, you're not rugging people. I think people are starting to come around and give people a lot of credit for innovation, right? Otherwise, people are literally going to be dying off with their portfolio. I mean, I think there was a recent conference where I think there was an ICA discussion recently, and it was more like, hey, if I die, what happens? Do I give this stuff to my kids? And there's this whole case law now, at least domain practicals, let alone, the legal aspect, figuring out what people do when they literally take these domain names to the grave. So I go back to kind of what we think about with Doma. We always have wanted to bring liquidity and expanded use case to these asset classes, right? But it does start with education.
I 1000% agree. I think liquidity is the key thing, right? Liquidity is a real issue in the domain investing world. When people say, "Oh, NFTs, domains are the original NFTs," the only problem is they don't and didn't have the liquidity that NFTs had. So, if you could borrow one thing from NFTs and add liquidity to the Web2 domain layer, then it's even more of an attractive asset class.
The one thing NFTs had was they had a chain you could trade them on, whether it was mainnet Ethereum or even Solana, right? And again, history, I keep saying this over and over, but history repeats itself. All blockchain is at the end of the day is a database. It's a distributed ledger. Doesn't matter if it's Oracle or MySQL, or in this case, like a Solana, or in this case, a Doma, right? You don't want to get too dogmatic, in my opinion, on the choice of tech. You want to think about the practical use cases that drive value to an industry.
Mark, both Ish and Fred talked about tokenizing these domains, launching these domains on Doma. We did get a question in the chat. Will there be any live Doma domain launches at Dominion? Do you want to speak about that and then maybe expand upon this? You mentioned maybe a trading competition.
Yeah, we're locking down the schedule right now. Ish actually has one of his names launching the day before Dominion, actually. So next Tuesday. And then Dominion's next Wednesday and Thursday. We've got at least 2, maybe 3 live launches that we're going to do, like on stage, full countdown and everything. So we're bringing.
Do you want to share the name that I'm launching, or we want to keep that on the hush? It's up to you, Mark.
Oh no, we'll talk about it. I mean, I think we'll definitely talk about it later on stream. But we're excited to obviously bring you into the full. Yeah, it was a great name. I'm glad we got it on the schedule. And then the trading competition is our first ever one we're doing live too. So,
oh wow.
So Dominion this year, we made a decision to co-locate with the Bitcoin conference. So there's, I think, 40,000 people coming to Vegas next week. And they're not just Bitcoin maxis, right? They're like pretty much all of US crypto will be in town for it. And we're going to see if anyone wants to try their hand and compete against pros like Ish, right? And vie for a prize. I think the prize we put out was like up to $10,000 USDC, sliding scale. So based on how many contestants there are in the room, the prize gets bigger, kind of like a carnival, right? So hopefully people bring their friends out next Wednesday, and then have some fun trading some of the names. And we got some curveballs and surprises for it. So pretty excited. And we'll keep the names under wraps for now, that we'll live launch, but there are definitely going to be some amazing names, both .com, .ai, and then maybe even a few surprise TLDs that people haven't seen on Doma. So
without sharing those names yet, the trading competition, how is that going to work? Who's eligible? Will they have to be in attendance to participate? Will people be able to do that remotely? What does the participation look like for the trading competition?
Yeah, since we're kind of part of the Bitcoin conference, we want people on site, right? So we want people coming, learning about domains, experiencing Doma for the first time. And then we're kind of trying to do like something like esports, where we want people with their terminals, with the Doma UI up, and seeing people's strategies, right? We're going to let everyone start with the same amount of money in their wallets. And at the end of the competition, based on how they perform on our leaderboard, we'll kind of pick a winner, right? But hopefully there will be some interesting aggressive strategies. Maybe people will their strategy will pay off, and then maybe some people will get wrecked. And then during that competition, we'll definitely have a couple live launches so that they get the opportunity not just to trade blue chips and any one of the couple hundred of names that are already on chain, but get in and out of a bonding curve, right? And potentially take advantage of that. So lots of different opportunities. Hopefully, Ish, that you're one of the few, I think, that live the world between domains and Web3. So you're obviously more than welcome to compete. And then, yeah, that'll take place on Wednesday afternoon next week.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. What do we win, a Bentley?
Half
the time I'm not sure what Mark Trang has in store, but like you, Ish, like Mark is one of the best. I'll call it event tastemakers out there that I've ever seen. So a number of us are actually based in Vegas as well, including Mark. So you're coming to our local ground, and we will not disappoint.
Yeah, it should be good.
I think it's a great. I'm sorry. I think it's a great opportunity to sort of like fast track your learning in domaining while still seeing what's going to happen in the future inevitably. And when you look at the speaker lineup, you don't have an opportunity to meet those type of people and connect with them in such an intimate setting. And so for me, from a networking perspective, it's very attractive, and the price point is very affordable, considering the fact that it's right around Bitcoin conference. You get to kill multiple birds with one stone. So if you've ever been curious about domains, make it out of Vegas and show up.
Love it.
Yeah, we're seeing a ton of signups from the Bitcoin side, just people who are in town for just crypto. So that'll be a great opportunity for I think you-ish, right, to meet some of these folks firsthand, and then obviously introduce your portfolio and your names, including the one we're going to launch again on Tuesday.
Yeah, and again, like our mission is to bring way more eyeballs to Web2 domainers, right? That's part of our mission. We have to connect them with owners like yourself, right? You cannot bring more liquidity if you do not bring more eyeballs into the ecosystem.
Yep. Speaking of eyeballs, this is a little bit of a curveball. I do want to get back to some of the surprise packages, some of the surprise things that will be taking place at Dominion. But we talked a lot about AI agents last week and what this agentic web means for domains. We had a comment here from godidgo.com, just talking about how big DNS tokenization is. It's crazy. People get to grasp the potential of domain names, and especially when combining with AI in blockchain tech, and commenting on this agentic era. Ish, I'm curious, how has this explosion of AI agents, the change of the agentic web, is that changing how you're approaching the domain landscape? What do you think that is going to change, either already has or coming soon with this AI explosion?
Well, it's definitely impacting how I approach my domain investing. One of the biggest challenges for a domain investor is you would typically operate as a lone wolf, right? So you have your portfolio, no one else has the names that you have. And so you always want to get feedback on, how do I price these names? How do I, maintain my portfolio? What names should I drop? What are the use cases for these names? Who are the potential end users? Are there any oversights that my human limitation doesn't allow me to see, right? So using Claude, for example, I just have a much better experience. I have a process now where before I renew a name, I get feedback from Claude, which doesn't use emotions, right? It's data backed, and it gives me a thorough perspective of an analysis of a name. Like if it says this is a great name and I didn't think it was a great name, then I'm like, okay, what's so great about it? I can have that interaction anytime with AI. So to me, that's powerful. Secondly, from a development perspective, we recently just saw the end of domain parking, but from a development perspective, AI in this agentic era, you can actually take the domain and develop it much quicker. You can even if your intent is to just sell it, you can create a lander. You can you can build an MVP. You could just add more value to your portfolio. So from a portfolio management perspective, from a decision-making perspective, from a marketing and sales perspective, it's just enhanced the experience significantly for me.
You nailed it. To me, that's what it's like. AI plus Doma. It's taking these assets to where myself, like I've owned domains for most of my adult life. Other than the handful that I've actually built a business with, the rest haven't done anything. It'd be like buying a house and just letting it sit there and just paying taxes, paying the mortgage every year, but not renting it out, not living in it, not doing anything with it. Just every year I'm just paying property tax just because I own this house that hopefully someday I can sell for more than I bought it for. Now with AI, to your point, it can go from just a domain maybe being parked somewhere to actually spinning up a landing page, maybe starting a simple, a small, vibe coded business, and then taking it one step further with something like Doma, turning that into a productive asset today, not years from now, not, I need to go raise some funds to scale a business and make the domain productive, but can vibe code a landing page, bring it on Doma this afternoon, and all of a sudden it's become a productive asset, which before, again, I was just sitting there, just sitting on these domains, not doing anything with them. So it really has been a big unlock. And it's like, even just that analogy today, it's like, I feel like every week on this episode, every time we're talking with the Doma team, it's just like, I have one of those, those light bulb moments, like, wow, this really is an emerging industry that everyone knows about, but yet it still feels so ground floor.
Right.
I want to share one thing.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just going to add to, you asked about AI, right? I mean, I think I agree with these guys. And Andreessen Horowitz just posted the other day that the bottleneck for the agent economy is now identity, not intelligence, right? Domain names have historically, if you put liquidity aside for a second, you talk about use cases and usage of the DNS. The DNS system, like the real domain names, right? Over 400 of them, they power 5 billion plus users. Every government satellite in the planet, or hovering over the planet, now with connected cars, everything uses the DNS system, right? The next wave of identity should be on, if you forget about DNS for a second, should be on a universal naming system, right? Think about when you go pay for some stuff and you want to send a tip to your valet driver, right? You got to choose between Venmo and Zelle and PayPal if you don't have cash, let alone cash, right? There can be a simple way for you to just simply to send something straight to ishmilly.com, and it just works out of the box. It's almost like one of those things that people don't even think about. And I think that the agentic use cases, the agentic economy is just getting started.
And I was also going to say, like, it's also created an amazing category for domain investors, a lot of liquidity when it comes to those type of domain names. One of my recent acquisitions was datapayments.com. And I think one of the reasons why I picked it up for a cheap price, in my opinion, was whoever was selling that name didn't think about the application in terms of the agentic era, right? AI agents are going to be making payments, right? And that's just, we're seeing that happen with the X402 protocol right now. And so when I have these ideas, I'm able to go in AI on Claude, for example, and say, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think, right? I remember, like, my conference I'm organizing, I really got the inspiration from having a conversation with AI, right? The domain was available for sale. And I said, hey, what do you think about the odds of me doing a prediction conference? And the AI was like, that is an excellent idea. The timing is perfect. This is what's happening. This is where you should do it. And, it was like having a conversation with a human with a lot of experience. I couldn't find any human to have that discussion with, right? And so I till today, I still have the same chat where I'm able to say, okay, update the revenue tracker. This person just paid. Give me a list of everyone who applied to speak. You know what I mean? Like it's like I have a digital coworker that keeps me on track and allows me to optimize my productivity. As someone who's been organizing events for over 2 decades, I never had that, right? Even my website, a speaker wants to join, a speaker can't make it because they're sick. It's a prompt away for that update. And So it's like if you're not using agentic AI, you're doing a disservice to yourself. But from an investment perspective, we've seen a lot of agentic AI related names sell for a healthy premium. Someone just called me the other day. They were like, I own supercli.com. What should I list it for? I was like, take it away from Adam, no disrespect. Put it on Spaceship, list it for 15,000. He called me a week later, goes, the name sold. They're very liquid names if you understand the technicalities behind this new emerging technology.
Tying this all together, I mean, it looks like AI16Z agrees. We pulled up this post that they were talking about the missing infrastructure for AI agents and 5 ways blockchain can help. This was not a paid advertorial from Doma, but right in the wheelhouse. And speaking of these domains and in the trenches and the intersection of AI and blockchain tech and domains, I saw this post from Doma, from the trenches soon. Ish, I don't know, anything that jumps out to you when you see this post?
Yeah, I think it's a teaser for something coming. The trenches. Trenches is a very culturally relevant word in Web3 that Web2 people can relate to. To me, it represents the grind, the ups and downs, the uncertainties, the hustle. I really love the word, and everyone in the domain investment community echo chamber knows that I've been picking up a collection of trenches words. I own trenches.ai, trenches.io, trenches.xyz, and a few other extensions. I think I own aitrenches.com. I just love the word. I think it was the most used word in Web3 towards the end of the meme coin era, right? I don't know if the meme coin era will bounce back, but every day it was like, oh, I'm in the trenches. I'm in the trenches. I haven't seen a word more used in Web3 than the word trenches, and I stand corrected. So I decided that we should make trenches.ai available on Doma, and here we are.
Exciting stuff. Mark, I hope it's okay to go ahead and share this one. I see the countdown on doma.xyz, 6 days and 18 hours. That lines up pretty well to next week.
Yeah, that's right. We're excited to bring this very kind of culturally appropriate word with an amazing TLD attached, right? This is not trenches dot some random TLD. This is trenches.ai, right? This could be the future of trading, the future of Web3, the future of degen culture. Yeah, it's a great name. Obviously, Ish saw the future. Maybe you can talk a little bit about Ish, like, I mean, you mentioned it, like just you acquired a bunch of these names, but maybe this one in particular, if there's any interesting backstory.
Yeah, I bought this name from the end user. I actually cold called this guy that had registered and was using the name, and I bought it from him. Unfortunately, I can't disclose the prices. I have an NDA with him, but It wasn't a name that was publicly listed. I always thought, why can't I just call people and see if they'll sell me their domain name? It's like knocking on someone's house a door and saying, "Sell me your house." Right? I've heard of people doing that before. So I really wanted this name. In fact, I wanted trenches.com, but those guys wanted $9 million. Good luck with that. But so I said, okay, well, .ai makes sense. .io I already own, but I wanted the .ai, and I reached out to this guy. He was overseas. We had a back and forth for about a month, and when we agreed on the price, he was like, "I'm not, I don't know how we're going to do the transfer," and I had to explain the whole escrow.com process for him. And that took about 7 days, very, very slow. So that was the story behind that name. I thought it was one of those names where I would see it listed for sale, but there was a consulting company behind it. And I was like, hey, I'll offer you another name. You can just sell me the house. And he was like, oh, well, I'll just sell you the domain name. I'll figure out what I'll do. I could use the cash. And I had the name listed. Gets a lot of traffic, but I just figured, this is one of those names where instead of underselling it, why not just extract some liquidity from it and allow other people to co-own it with me? And I think this word is not going anywhere. It has a lot of relevance, even outside of the whole meme culture. It could have defense applications. And it's just a short, memorable word. And obviously, we've seen .ai SLDs with less meaning sell for six figures. So, I worked with Mark. I came in the D3 office and I said, I'm not looking for a crazy exit. Let's price it in a way where people can have an opportunity to ascend in value with it, right? So I think Mark, even with some pushback from me, was able to convince me like, no, you want to make it a very attractive offer for people. So this name, I don't know. It might be $1 million name in the future. Who knows where .ai will go? But it's a really good name today.
And it's the right name to allow the people in the trenches to be part of it, which is kind of very, very meta, right? For the people who are in the trenches, for them to have a piece of it and participate.
Correct.
I think this is, well, definitely the first time, right? A name like this that has that cultural significance. It's not about the whales, right? It's not about the big guys at the top. This is for the masses, right? And then I think it's super appropriate, of course, not surprisingly timed right before Dominion. And of course, we'll keep an eye on it. And then Ish will obviously be at Dominion. People will talk about it. So people can own and trade and be part of the trenches live on site.
Yeah, let's own the AI trenches together.
Yeah, congrats
Yeah,
on
right.
the acquisition. That's a great one, and thank you for bringing it to Doma so we all can participate with you. I know, Mark, the trading competition is just going to be for those that are at Dominion, but for something like Trenches.ai and any other domains that might be launching, I mean, that's everyone can participate, right? Like that's going to go live just like a regular domain would go live on Doma, and
right.
whether they're there or not, they can get in, while it's in the bonding curve, pre-bonding curve, and participate from the jump. Is that that's correct, right?
That's right. Yeah, we're not doing any like special stunts or keeping certain things hidden. As soon as they're listed, no different than any of the other 400 plus names we've launched it. You'll see the countdown, right? So since it's on chain, you can't hide it. But yeah, as soon as we list a few others, you'll kind of mentally know, like based on the UTC time zone, like, oh, this makes sense. That's going to happen next week. But we're launching 3 to 5 names plus per day, and the community is launching a bunch on top of that. So we have a huge pipeline and backlog, and the ones that we do on stage at Vegas next week will be accessible to anyone in the world, right? The entire community, our community on Discord and on X and others. So yeah, you don't have to be present to win. Everyone can kind of trade from wherever they are.
Awesome. If you got any, those listening in, if you have any questions for Mark or Fred or Ish, drop them in the chat. We'll do our best to get all the questions answered today. I know we're running up. We just passed over the 4 o'clock hour. So we'll get to a few other talking points. We'll get to any questions that come in the chat, at least all that we can today. And then before we run out of time though, I want to get to a few other, I got a glimpse of a few other things going to be taking place at Dominion. And I'd like to get maybe all of your responses on them. One that I was kind of shocked to see, not only is Trenches.ai launching, but I hear there might be some free AI domains, free .ai domains. Are you giving away free .ai domains? What's going on with the free domains at Dominion? Who qualifies, and how are we going to be able to claim this?
Yeah, so we thought it'd be fun, kind of coupled with the team talking about AI.com and all the hype and energy around just the category, for people to find a name they like, .ai, and we'll get that name to them for free. Obviously, you have to be on site, must be present to win. And I think we're trying to do this on Thursday. So when the AI.com session happens that day, kind of like a doorbuster. The first 100 people that claim it on site will get a free .ai. And I think the prices just went up, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of what the registries are charging.
It just went up.
So it's like close to $200, I think, 2 years. So it's not a throwaway asset. And then
it almost pays for the conference ticket.
Potentially, yeah. And then you can immediately, since you are getting it from us, it'll immediately be on chain as a tradable asset. not just an NFT, and then you can potentially fractionally launch it, just like Ish is doing with trenches.ai.
Very cool. I see USDC airdrops. Now, is this part of the trading competition or in addition to?
It's in addition to, so we'll have just incentivize ways for people to get their wallets, get a little bit of USDC on Doma chain in their wallets so they can trade, right? And then we'll actually have a slot machine. The team is setting up a slot machine, an airdrop slot machine, so that you can, it's probably more favorable than what you would find on the casino floor at Resorts World. So pull away, you might be able to get some USDC, maybe some free domains, some free domain tokens of some of our blue chip tokens we're giving away. So a lot of opportunity to experience Doma in a very fun Vegas setting.
So when you say free domain tokens, like someone could walk away with some shares of
maybe like 100 shares of brag.com,
okay,
boner.com, software.ai, rides.com, a couple of like just the big ones that we've launched. So everyone can, it's not going to be like a life-changing amount. It's not a jackpot amount, but at least it gets you being a partial owner, right? And then it's up to you you can turn those into, you can stake it and then claim a subdomain, for example. There are a lot of things you can do with that. You can hold on to it, or if you want to sell some of it, you can totally do that too. The whole point is just to get you on-ramped onto Doma.
And I see leaderboard points. Can you maybe, if they're just people are just hearing about the leaderboard for the first time, I see still in the top 3 we've got Wasted Code in number 2, OX Flowers number 3 right now. What are these like? Does that mean that by attendees will be getting some leaderboard points? And what are all these leaderboard points for? Is there some prize at the end? Is it bragging rights? Why would someone want to move up?
Leaderboards, think of it as almost like a loyalty system or a gamification system, right? To incentivize people to participate on Doma chain, right? So we reward every action, trading volume, staking, and then those points accumulate. So we've been doing this for 6+ months now since we launched in mainnet, and you can see kind of the size of the points, right? So to incentivize new people, if you pull the slots, you might have a chance of, I don't know, getting a couple hundred, couple thousand points immediately, right? To jumpstart your journey on chain. And then over time, right, there's different tiers and NFTs and badges you can earn. No different than, if you play video games or a loyalty program for travel and whatnot. It's very, very similar to like a mechanic that a lot of Web3 projects use. And then we have a huge global community of folks that have been with us a while. So the leaderboard's a great way to reward some of our most loyal community members.
Love it. Ish, I got maybe a quick question for you, and then I want to give you the floor for a second to expand upon a follow-up question. But the last bullet point I have here on Dominion is free bulk domain transfers. And as someone who has thousands of domain, large domain portfolio, what does free bulk transfer mean to you? And is this a big deal?
It is a big deal. Yeah, I mean, it costs money, especially with like .ai. If you were to transfer .ai to another registrar, you're possibly going to have to pay renewals for another 2 years. The onboarding process is very smooth, and I think that is a big deal. Like it's a great incentive for people to want to tokenize their names. Like it eliminates any kind of like additional cost for them. So yeah, people should take advantage of that for sure.
And Ish, you run Domainer Expo, you host weekly X Spaces, you know this community pretty well now. You've seen domain conferences come and go. What do you think Dominion means for the domain industry, not just as an event, but as a larger signal?
I view it as even bigger than the domain industry, to be honest with you. One of the things I'll credit Fred and Mark and the team of doing is they've always brought people that were outside of the domain world. I remember you brought Arthur A's, who's a well-known crypto guy, and I think it's been a big reason why you guys have had great success raising from the likes of Paradigm. It's a well-networked, intimate gathering. So you go to a typical Domainer Expo, you're dealing with mostly domainers, maybe GoDaddy. These are, it's almost the same thing over and over again, right? So it's good to see someone going into a different territory, albeit untapped, and bringing such a healthy mix of speakers together. I'm extremely honored and, excited to speak. But when you look at people like Braden, probably one of the best domain investors in the world, speaking, that speaks to the fact that they're not missing the mark in blending both worlds, right? So when you bring people, executives from Solana, domainers like Braden, and people that are Web3 folk together, that's when those meaningful conversations and innovations occur, where people can hear both sides of the equation. And I think that's quite unique and impressive.
Yeah, I will. It'll be my first Dominion. I'm really, truly excited for many of the reasons you just mentioned. And I mean, whether it's a crypto conference or a trade show from a past life, my leading goal at all these in real life meetups, these in real life events or activations is the networking component. And while you might go to like I don't know, something with tens of thousands of attendees and you see a good lineup of speakers, that's one thing. Here, you got the incredible lineup of speakers in a much more intimate venue and setting, and the opportunity for networking, just to me, it gets me really excited to see.
Right.
And it's not just one world, to your point. It's not just domainers. It's not just, crypto OGs, but both in the same room. I think it's going to just like the serendipitous connections and conversations will take place, over lunch or, during a cocktail mix or beyond just what you hear from the speakers and the panels on stage. That I think is priceless and really.
You got to be careful, Cap. Once you get in the domain industry, it's hard to get out.
It's like the mafia. It's for
you
life.
Get a little stuck in it. We were joking. This is our. Once you pass the third one of these podcasts, there's a little bit of a drop off. We could probably go for 300. Literally.
Right.
We've seen this for decades. People just love their domain names. We gotta make it easier.
Yeah, I get it. 3 episodes in, 4 episodes in now, I'm hooked. I do want to share just some quick stats, and then I'll kick it back to Mark. If there's any other notable domains that are going to be launching between now and Dominion, if you wanted to share or talk about. But just quickly looking at the Doma leaderboard, the Doma activity, if you will. Total volume over 70 million, almost 72 million now. Total liquidity approaching, 750,000. TVLs at almost 27 million, 115,000 tokenized assets, nearly 50,000 unique wallets, and total transactions rapidly approaching 10 million for a relatively new platform. And I think one of the things that to me, I see when I explore Doma and the community, it's unlike, we were talking meme coins earlier, you got a runner of the day that people are talking about today, and then the next week they move on. Here, you've got a lot of people in this community that they aren't just buying shares, they're not just buying, new domain launches, but they're creating subdomains and they're building with those subdomains. It seems like a much stickier customer base. Am I correct in thinking your retention's probably pretty strong when someone, not only, those of us, once we get in deep in the domain industry, we get stuck, but even just your average user, I'm guessing that they are, once they come on and they find Doma, they're probably sticking around for a while. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, it's a fair assumption. I think part of it is just the beauty of blockchains, right? Just this democratization philosophy. We're not just unlocking liquidity for folks like Ish and experienced longtime domain investors who've been around for decades. I think we're ushering in a new generation, right? And we're seeing this every day. Folks that we've never heard of, Fred's never heard of in terms of his history in the domain industry, showing up with pretty impressive portfolios, right? They're not throwaway names, and then launching them and generating liquidity, and then launching more, right? And in some cases, they're building a community around them using subdomains if there's a good application for it. I think we're just scratching the surface, right? There's, 390 million registered domain names around the world, .com, .ai, .xyz. and we've only launched under 500, right? So if you do the simple math of, obviously not all the names are going to be great, right? But even if you took the top 1% of that, that's 4 million names out there, and we've only launched 400.
And despite that, despite being, for all intents and purposes, brand new in the crypto world and just getting started, as you said, already a top chain by transactions. I see all these, I'm not going to name any names or not trying to make this PvP. You see a lot of these newer chains, whether it's an L1 or an L2, and they're struggling for transactions, or they're doing a bunch of things to, award XP or gamify just purely for vanity
or farming.
Yeah, just to drive transactions. And I don't see any of that on Doma. You're already, hitting the marks and already a top domain in terms of transaction volume, just getting started out of the gate. And it's one that, unlike the others, again, I'm not knocking, I'm not trying to make this PvP, but a lot of that stuff goes away as soon as they TG. As soon as they drop their token, people are gone. They stop using the chain. The vanity metric go to zero. Whereas here, it should continue to scale. Like it's something that you can see the growth taking place now. And as people find it, people discover Doma, they come back, create additional domains. They tokenize their own domains. They buy more. It's just it's like we said earlier, like these domains, like software.ai, it's not going to zero. Like it may fluctuate. It may be volatile, do your own research, never any financial advice on the show, but it's unlike a meme coin that doesn't have any inherent value. These domains do. And something like trenches.ai, like that's going to hold some sort of value. I don't know if I think I saw it's launching, the bonding curve launches at 15K. Maybe that's all it is. But it's somewhere between there and, I don't know, $1 million, a 7-8 figure domain. And to be able to participate, to not only buy a piece of that domain, but then to be able to launch your own subdomains. Like, to me, that's just, I think very much, and you're seeing it in the numbers, very much so differentiated from all the other blockchains out there. And albeit a specific use blockchain, to me, part of the thing, not only has this got me more bullish on domains, it's got me thinking differently about blockchains and the idea of, very use case specific blockchains like Doma, where you're not just throwing something on chain to capture liquidity or drive some valuation, but it actually unlocks additional utility, unlocks additional features of the underlying asset. And as RWAs take off, like I think this is something where Doma, you're not just pushing the domain space forward, but really showing what's possible as it relates to RWAs and bringing things on chain to do more with it, not just to drive up some fake vanity numbers, but actually unlock more utility, provide more access to more people. And yeah, so on behalf of everyone tuning in today and all those that, whether they're going to be at Dominion or not, thanks on behalf of all of us for pushing multiple spaces forward, multiple industries forward, and excited to see some really exciting numbers early on out of the gates. But Mark, was there any other domain launches taking place over the next week or so that you wanted to talk about before we get everyone out of here today?
Not any specific ones, but I think since we're going to be doing this show, I think live from Vegas next week, I think I encourage the audience to just keep tabs of some of the announcements. I kind of hinted at, we've only launched 400, right? So how do we bring more on faster? So we have specific announcements next week and product and technology to make it way easier for folks like Ish to bring more domains on faster, right? And then to your point around the utility, right? These aren't just valuable assets. These are also useful technical artifacts that unlock new use cases. And we're also going to make a couple announcements around that next week. So I think by this time, when's our stream? I think next Thursday, pretty much towards the end of Dominion, we'll be able to recap not just all kind of the things we talked about today, but all the new news. And then by then ish, you have launched trenches.ai. So maybe we'll get you back on the show to do a quick recap to see what your experience has been like. And then maybe we can pull out and spend some of that money on the casino floor together.
I'm staying away from the casino. I do Kalshi now.
Oh, perfect.
There you go.
Perfect.
Me too. But I played blackjack as well. I'm with you there, Mark.
One of our guests next week. Sits on the board at Kaushi. Looking forward to one of the many speakers I'm looking forward to hearing from.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I would love to connect with them. That's another beautiful thing. You get to meet people like that at Dominion in person. So, rare opportunity to meet people that are in crypto and domains at a very high level.
Absolutely. Ish, it was great to connect with you today. Looking forward to meeting you in person next week at Dominion. Before we get you out of here, is there any final thoughts, any closing words, anything that you were hoping we'd ask you today, you wanted a chance to talk about that we haven't hit on yet?
No, we covered quite everything. I mean, join our spaces every weekend. It's a casual conversation about domains. It's called Domain Name Investing. I've been hosting that consistently for over 3 years now, and it's every Saturday from 10 a.m. PST. Just a great way to sort of like catch up on what's going on with domains, hear from other people. Other than that, get out there, build your network. These conferences are a real opportunity to, build that network. I always tell people your network is your net worth. So, and Vegas is the cheapest city to fly into in America. So try to get out there. If you're sitting on the fence, you won't regret it.
And that the spaces you host just from your X account, which is just Ishmaeli, just your name Ishmaeli, and the spaces go live from your account, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. Mark, it was great having you today as well. First time on the show. Great to get you on video here. Any final thoughts, any closing words from you before we go to Fred?
No, anyone who's making their way to Dominion next week, safe travels. Look to host you and have a great time. I'll see you guys there on Wednesday.
Looking forward to it. Again, luma.com/Dominion 2026 to get your tickets. If you have any questions, you can DM the Doma protocol account. They'll get back to you pretty quickly with any questions, and echo the safe travels and let us know if you're going to be out there. Hit me up. I'd love to do an in real life coffee and chat. Make sure to come up and say hi. Don't be a stranger, whether it's at the one of the lunch breaks or breakfast or one of the cocktail hours. Would love to tell you thanks for tuning in and get a chance to meet you in person. Fred, any final thoughts, any closing words from you, anything before we see everyone next week in Vegas?
Get your wallets ready.
The on-chain wallets, not your wallets that you might need to pull out the debit card for the casino. We're going to save those for, hopefully, you mentioned the slot machines. Hopefully it's not the creepy slot machines that now follow you back to your room. I don't know. I just saw that on the timeline.
Yeah, I just saw that.
I don't understand quite why the slot machines need to move, but now they are robot slot machines that'll follow you down throughout the casino floor. So we're going to see one of those. Last time I was in Vegas, I got one of the autonomous vehicles for the first time. Now I might be hitching a ride back to my room on a mobile slot machine, apparently. But
what are those called? The Zoots or something like that?
The autonomous cars out there.
Yeah, I've been seeing them everywhere. I'm in Vegas right now, and I love technology, but I'm scared to get in a self-driven car.
No Waymo for you?
I see Waymos every day, but I don't hop in them.
The Zoo, I did it. I was out there last fall. It was the first time I was in one, and it was they were doing them free. I don't know if it's still a free promo, but it was relatively smooth. Didn't mind it at all. Would do again. But that said, appreciate everyone tuning in today. Thanks for all the comments in the chat. Join us in Vegas next week for Dominion. Again, last shout out, head to luma.com/Dominion 2026. Ish, it was a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you so much for joining us. Mark, thanks again for your time as always. And Fred, always a pleasure here on Doma OnAir. As you said, we made it to episode 4. I think last week we shared only 75% of podcasts ever make it to episode 3. So now we're in the clear. Now it's from 3 on to 300, as you said. And we wouldn't be here without all of our lovely listeners tuning in. Greatly appreciate all of you for the audience participation, the questions, and looking forward to seeing hopefully several of you out in Vegas next week. With that, I hope you all have a wonderful day, everyone.
All right, cheers.
Buying domains was low, Doma changing the game. One bridge, one standard, now the systems move the same. Registrar, stay central, keep the trust and control. DNS and compliance, still they play the key role. Traded on chain, let new markets arise. Domain value unlocked, welcome to Domain Fi.